At the Christmas dinner, my daughter-in-law raised her glass and said in a loud voice, "Starting today, I am going to manage everything for the family. Margaret, your card has been canceled." My husband decided it should be this way. Everyone celebrated. I just smiled and said, "Son, you really don't know, do you?" He froze as if his heart had stopped. My daughter-in-law shouted, "Know what? Let me tell you how I got to that moment. How a night that was supposed to be full of joy turned into the instant my own son stabbed a knife into my chest without even realizing what he was doing." If these life stories move you, subscribe to the channel to keep listening to confessions like this one. Hit like and stay with me until the end, because what comes next, nobody expected. My name is Margaret. I am 68 years old, and that Christmas night, dressed in my wine-colored wool shawl that I had knitted myself, I was sitting at the head of the table in my own house, watching my family celebrate my humiliation. The table was set with the embroidered tablecloth I sewed 30 years ago. Scented candles gave off the smell of cinnamon. The golden turkey rested in the center, surrounded by stuffing and cranberry sauce. Everything looked perfect, everything, except for what was about to happen. Vanessa, my daughter-in-law, stood up. She was wearing a tight, peach-colored dress that showed off her 5-month baby bump. Her brunette hair fell in perfect waves over her shoulders. She smiled with that security only people who believe they have already won possess. She raised her glass of sparkling cider and tapped the crystal gently with a spoon. The clinking caught everyone's attention. My son Michael, sitting beside her, looked at her with adoration. My sisters-in-law, my nephews' wives, stopped talking. The children running around the living room stopped. Even the Christmas music seemed to lower in volume. "Family," Vanessa began with a firm and clear voice. "Today is a special day. Not just because of Christmas, but because I have an important announcement to make." I felt a knot in my stomach. Something in her tone warned me that this wouldn't be about the baby. As you know, Michael and I are expecting our first child. This makes us think about the future, about responsibilities. She made a dramatic pause, letting her words float in the air. "That is why we have made a very important family decision." Michael nodded beside her. Serious, with that expression he wore when he believed he was doing the right thing. Vanessa continued. "Starting today, I am going to manage all the finances of this family. It is time for someone young with a modern financial education to take control of things." The silence was so dense you could hear the candles crackling. "Margaret," she said, turning toward me with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Your credit card was canceled this morning. Michael and I decided it is better this way. At your age, you don't need to worry about expenses or responsibilities. We will take care of everything. If you need something, just ask for it in advance." "Sure." The words fell like stones into a calm lake. But the lake wasn't me. The lake was my family. My sisters-in-law exchanged looks of approval. One of them, Sarah, even clapped softly. "What a good idea, Vanessa. My mother-in-law should do the same. These older ladies are a disaster with money." The nephews laughed. Someone clinked their glass with Vanessa's. Michael smiled proudly, as if he had just solved a problem no one else had seen. And I just watched them. I watched how my 2-year-old son, the boy I raised alone after becoming a widow, the man I shaped with tears and sacrifice, looked at me as if I were a burden he had finally learned to manage. I felt something break inside me. It wasn't rage, not yet. It was something deeper. It was the confirmation of a suspicion I had held for 3 years, since the day Vanessa entered our lives. I took a sip of my fruit punch. The bittersweet taste reminded me of all the previous Christmases, when Michael and I were just the two of us, sharing leftovers at our small kitchen table, laughing because I had burned the turkey. Now we were here, in this house he believed was mine, surrounded by people celebrating my defeat. I set the glass on the table. The sound resonated louder than I expected. All eyes turned toward me. Vanessa remained standing, expectant, waiting for my reaction. She wanted to see me cry, wanted me to beg, wanted me to break. But instead of that, I smiled. It was a calm smile. Almost sweet. The smile of someone who knows something the others ignore. I stood up slowly, feeling the weight of my 68 years in my knees. I looked my son directly in the eyes, those honey-colored eyes he inherited from his father, eyes that once looked at me with pure love before the poison of ambition clouded them. "Son," I said softly with a calm voice, You really don't know, do you? Michael blinked, his smile froze. Something in my tone made him doubt. Know what, Mom? He asked with an insecure voice. Vanessa stepped forward nervously. Know what? She repeated, but now her voice had an edge of panic. I didn't answer immediately, I just looked at both of them. And in that silence, in that pause loaded with meaning, I saw doubt begin to slide down their faces like cold water, because they didn't know anything. They didn't know who I really was. They didn't know what I had built in 40 years of silence. They didn't know that the woman they had just publicly humiliated was the only one holding the keys to the kingdom they thought they were conquering. The table fell into complete silence. You could only hear the ticking of the wall clock and the crackling of the wood in the fireplace. And there I was, Margaret, the widow, the seamstress, the selfless mother, the woman they had just underestimated for the last time. But to understand why that question left them frozen, I need to take you back in time. I need to tell you who I am, where I come from, and how I built an empire in the shadows while everyone believed I was just a harmless little old lady, because the worst hadn't happened yet. 40 years ago, I wasn't Margaret, the mother-in-law humiliated at a Christmas dinner. I was Margaret, the 8-year-old widow who had just buried her husband while 7 months pregnant and facing a mountain of debt that threatened to bury her alive. I remember the day of the funeral as if it were yesterday. The sky was gray, heavy with clouds that never quite let the rain fall. The casket rested underground at Oak Ridge Cemetery. I was there in my black dress borrowed from a neighbor, feeling my son kick inside my belly as if protesting his father's absence. I didn't cry that day, not because I didn't want to, but because my tears had already run out 3 days earlier when the doctor told me, "I'm sorry, ma'am. We did everything possible." James had died in a car accident. A semi-truck ran a red light for just an instant, and everything we had built together vanished. What didn't vanish were the debts. 2 weeks after the burial, there was a knock at my door. It was Mr. Henderson, the owner of the hardware store where James had taken out credit to repair our roof. He handed me a wrinkled paper with handwritten numbers. "Mrs. Margaret, I'm sorry to bother you in your mourning, but it's $45,000. Your husband signed the deed to the house as collateral." I felt the ground open beneath my feet. $45,000. In 1985, that was a fortune, and I was a seamstress earning $150 a week fixing hems and mending trousers. I closed the door, sat on the living room floor. My hand caressed my swollen belly, and for the first time since James died, I spoke aloud. "Forgive me, my boy. Your mom doesn't know how we're going to get out of this, but I swear to God that we are going to make it." I had no plan, no money, I barely had strength, but I had a Singer sewing machine my grandmother had left me, and I had hands that knew how to turn fabric into dreams. The next day I walked 6 blocks to Mrs. Evelyn Sterling's house, a high society lady who had once asked me to fix an imported dress. I knocked on her wrought iron door with my heart in my throat. When she opened it, she saw me there, pregnant, with dark circles under my eyes reaching my soul, holding a worn portfolio full of my hand-drawn designs. "Mrs. Sterling," I told her with a trembling but firm voice, "I need work, anything, but I promise you that if you give me a chance, you will never find anyone who sews better than I do." She looked me up and down. Then, to my surprise, she smiled. "Come in, child. Let's have coffee." That afternoon changed my life. Mrs. Sterling didn't just give me work, she gave me an education. She taught me that sewing wasn't just a trade, it was a business. She explained profit margins, how to charge for design and not just by the hour, about the importance of having clients who paid well instead of many who paid little. "Margaret," she told me one day while we drank tea in her garden full of hydrangeas, "you have a gift, but a gift without strategy is like having gold without knowing you have it. I am going to invest in you. I am going to lend you money so you can buy more fabric, quality fabric, so you can rent a small workshop, and you will pay me back when you start earning. There is no rush, but there is a condition. Never settle for being just a seamstress. Become a businesswoman." 2 months later, Michael was born, a beautiful baby weighing 7 pounds, with his father's eyes and my upturned nose. I held him in my arms in that little room at the public hospital and whispered, "You are going to have everything I didn't have, I promise you." And I delivered. I worked like never before. From 5 inches the morning to 11 at night, Michael slept in a little crib next to my sewing machine. The sound of the mechanical pedal became his lullaby. While I sewed wedding dresses, prom gowns, gala suits, he grew up surrounded by colored threads and scraps of silk. With the money Mrs. Sterling lent me, I opened my first shop, Margaret's Fine Couture, in a 200 square foot space in a strip mall. I hired 2 girls from the neighborhood who knew how to sew. I taught them everything Mrs. Sterling had taught me. The first 6 months were hard. There were nights I ate only macaroni and cheese to afford more fabric, but little by little, the business grew. The society ladies started recommending me. You have to go to Margaret. That girl sews like an angel. And with every dress I delivered, my reputation grew. 3 years after James's death, I had already paid off all his debts, every dollar, down to the last cent. Mrs. Sterling came to visit me at the shop the day I made my last payment. She hugged me tight and said, "I am proud of you, child. Now comes the hard part, growing." And I grew. I opened a second shop, then a third. I started selling not just to private clients, but to elegant boutiques. I registered my brand. Mrs. Sterling introduced me to an accountant, to a lawyer. She taught me to invest. The money you earn isn't for spending, Margaret. It's to make it grow. Buy properties, rent them out, create passive income. I didn't quite understand what passive income meant, but I learned. Oh, how I learned. I bought my first commercial property when Michael was 8 years old, a small store on a well-located corner. I rented it to a lady who sold groceries. Every month she paid me $3,500, money that came in without me having to sew a single button. Michael studied in a public school. He wore patched uniforms. We ate simply. We lived in the same humble bungalow James had left us, but in secret, I was building an empire. By the time I had been a widow for 10 years, I already had 3 rented commercial spaces. By 15 years, it was 5. I bought properties in areas that were up and coming before the prices rose. I invested in CDs and mutual funds. I saved every dollar, as if it were the last. And never did I tell Michael anything. I wanted my son to grow up with hunger, with a desire to strive, to value money because he had seen it be scarce, so he wouldn't become one of those spoiled rich kids who waste fortunes because they never had to earn them. So I kept up the facade, the widowed seamstress, the struggling mother, the simple woman who barely scraped by. When Michael turned 18 and entered State University to study industrial engineering, I told him he had gotten a full scholarship. In reality, I paid every dollar of his tuition, $20,000 per semester. When he graduated and got his first job as a junior engineer, earning $60,000 a year, he was so proud. He hugged me and said, "Mom, now I'm going to take care of you. You don't have to work so hard anymore." I laughed. I caressed his face. "Oh, my boy, if you only knew." But I didn't say anything. By then, I already had 8 commercial properties, all rented, generating $20,000 monthly in passive income. I had 3 luxury condos downtown that I had bought at foreclosure prices during the economic crisis, and I had $4.2 million in bank investments. My total net worth exceeded $7 million, and Michael believed his mother barely survived sewing dresses. I did it out of love, for protection, because I wanted him to become a man on his own merits. But I never imagined that silence, that white lie, would become the weapon they would one day use to sink me. Because 3 years later, Michael met Vanessa at a corporate party, and everything began to change. She came into my life like fog, slowly, almost imperceptibly, but covering everything until you can no longer see the road. And I, who had survived widowhood, debt, and 40 years of struggle, didn't see what was about to happen until it was too late. Michael was 30 when he met Vanessa. I was 65, and at that moment, my son still didn't know the truth about me. To him, I was the sacrificed mother living in a modest house in the suburbs, who kept sewing dresses to stay active, who refused his offers of financial help with stubborn pride. "No, honey, I'm fine. You save your money for your future." What Michael didn't know was that that modest house was just one of my 9 properties. I had bought it 20 years ago for $90,000. Now it was worth over $450,000. But I kept it simple on purpose. Cream-colored walls, old but comfortable furniture, a living room with that floral armchair he remembered from his childhood. Everything was theater, a stage carefully designed so my son would believe his mother barely survived with dignity. Meanwhile, I kept building. At 65, I had expanded my small empire. I had 8 commercial spaces rented in prime zones, 2 pharmacies, 3 medical offices, a cafe, a stationery store, and a beauty salon. Every month, without lifting a finger, $20,000 clear entered my bank accounts. I also owned 3 luxury apartments in the Gold Coast that Mrs. Sterling and I bought as partners when the market collapsed in 2008. We rented them to foreign executives for $5,000 a month each. My accountant, Mr. Higgins, a serious 60-year-old man with thick-rimmed glasses, visited me every 3 months to review the finances. He always knocked on my door at 9 a.m. when he knew Michael was already at work. "Mrs. Margaret," he would say as we reviewed the bank statements in my dining room, "your investments keep growing. You're already at $4.3 million in treasury bonds and mutual funds. Do you want to diversify more?" I would nod, taking notes in my hardbound notebook. The seamstress, who never finished high school, now understood annual yields, compound interest rates, and long-term investment strategies. Mrs. Sterling had taught me well before dying 5 years ago. Her last will was to leave me her share of the properties we had bought together. "You paid me back every dollar I lent you, Margaret, and you gave me something more valuable. You showed me that betting on women is never a bad investment." But none of this existed for Michael. To him, I was still the widow who sometimes asked him to help change a light bulb or fix a dripping faucet. I lied to him. Yes, but I did it out of love. I wanted my son to learn the value of effort, to know how to earn things, not to become one of those men who squander inherited fortunes because they never sweated to get them, and it worked. Michael became a responsible, hardworking, honest engineer. He rented a small apartment, drove a used car, saved every month. I was proud of him. Until Vanessa arrived. He met her at an industrial engineering conference. She worked as a marketing manager at a consulting firm, 32 years old, university degree, brand-name clothes, French perfume. She spoke with that assurance of someone born with open doors. Michael came to visit me one radiant Saturday, with that smile I hadn't seen since he was a child. "Mom, I met someone special." My heart filled with joy. My son, always so shy, had finally found someone. "What is her name, honey?" "Vanessa." "She is incredible, Mom. Intelligent, successful, beautiful. I want you to meet her." 2 weeks later, she knocked on my door. She arrived in a white BMW. She wore large sunglasses, a leather handbag I recognized as a designer piece. I had sewn enough imitations to know the difference in heels that clicked authoritatively against the floor. I opened the door with my apron still on, hands stained with flour because I was making cookies. "Ma'am, nice to meet you. I'm Vanessa." She extended her hand. Her grip was brief, almost disdainful. Her eyes scanned my house in 2 seconds. The old sofa, the old television, the faded curtains. I saw her expression change, a microsecond of disappointment immediately covered with a professional smile. That day we ate the pot roast I had prepared. Michael talked excitedly about their plans together. Vanessa nodded, but her eyes kept wandering around my house, evaluating, cataloging, judging. When they left, I sat in my floral armchair. Something in my stomach didn't feel right, but I told myself, "Give it time, Margaret. You barely know her." The next 6 months were a whirlwind. Michael and Vanessa formally became a couple. He started changing small things at first. He stopped visiting me on Sundays, our sacred tradition since he was a child, because Vanessa organized brunches with her friends. He started wearing more expensive clothes, things I knew he couldn't afford with his salary. When I asked him, he said, "Vanessa says I should invest in my professional image, Mom." One day he came to see me with a serious face. "Mom, Vanessa and I are thinking about getting married." My heart jumped. "So fast, my love. It's barely been 8 months. She's the one, Mom. I know it." "And well," he scratched the back of his neck nervously, "there is something I want to ask you." I felt a chill. "Tell me." "Vanessa thinks that, well, that when we get married, it would be good if you sold this house and came to live with us." She says it's too big for you alone, that you're getting older, that you need someone to take care of you. There it was, the first move on the board. I smiled calmly. Oh, my boy. I am perfectly fine here. This house holds my memories, my sewing workshop. I can't imagine myself anywhere else. Michael frowned. But Mom, Vanessa is right. What happens if you fall and no one is there? If you get sick, we could take care of you better. Take care of you. That phrase, as if I were an invalid old woman who needed supervision. Son, I am 65 years old, not 90. I keep working, walking, living my life. When the moment comes that I need help, I will let you know, but that moment is not today. I saw the frustration in his eyes, but he nodded. Okay, Mom, I just want you to be okay. They left. But that conversation planted a seed of worry in my chest. 3 months later, they got married. A discreet wedding in an elegant garden, 150 guests, an imported wedding dress that cost $8,000. Michael confessed it to me, embarrassed, when I asked. I attended in my best dress, one I had sewn especially for the occasion, discreet embroidery. Several guests asked me who had made it. I felt proud, but during the reception, I heard Vanessa talking to her friends near the bar. They didn't see me. That's your mother-in-law, the one in the gold dress? Yes, Vanessa replied with a sigh. Poor Michael. He grew up alone with her. The woman could never give him anything. Lives alone. Really? In an old house in the suburbs. Michael wants her to come live with us when we buy a house, but I don't know. Imagine having her there all the time. Her friends laughed. One said, well, at least you don't have to worry about complicated inheritances. No, there is nothing to fight over. Vanessa smiled. Exactly. That is the advantage. No money dramas. I walked away before they saw me. My hands trembled while I held my glass of champagne. I breathed deeply. Calm down, Margaret, I told myself. Let them think what they want. But something inside me changed that night. I realized that Vanessa hadn't just misjudged my economic situation. She had built her entire plan based on a lie that I myself had created. And now my silence was becoming my worst enemy. The next 2 years were a slow but constant escalation. Vanessa convinced Michael to buy a house in an exclusive gated community. They took out a huge mortgage. Michael worked 12 hours a day to pay the monthly installments of $3,500. I saw him exhausted every time he came to visit me. Now only once a month. Are you okay, son? Yes, Mom. Just tired, but it's worth it. Vanessa is happy in the new house. Vanessa got pregnant. Michael was on cloud 9. I knitted blankets for my grandson. I embroidered sheets, prepared homemade jams, but every time I visited their house, I felt the change. Vanessa treated me with cold courtesy. She offered me tea in chipped mugs while she drank coffee from fine porcelain. She made me wait in the living room when I arrived because she was busy. And Michael, my son, saw nothing. He was so submerged in work, in pleasing his wife, in preparing for fatherhood, that he didn't notice how they were displacing me from his life. Until that Christmas arrived, the dinner, the toast, the announcement, and my question that froze everything. Son, you really don't know, do you? Because the moment had arrived. I could no longer remain silent. Not when my own son was burying me alive. Allow me to backtrack a little more. I need you to understand exactly who Vanessa Sanchez was, because what my son saw in her and what she really was were two completely different things. He met her at an innovation conference at a hotel downtown. Michael had gone, forced by his boss, without much enthusiasm. She was there representing her consulting firm with a badge that said Strategic Marketing Manager. Vanessa was 5'6", straight brown hair, always perfectly flat-ironed, impeccable makeup that gave her that magazine look, nude gel nails, clothes that screamed money-fitted blazers, silk blouses, high heels she deliberately clicked against the marble to attract attention. She spoke with that neutral accent of someone who attended private schools. She used corporate buzzwords in her sentences. It's a very corporate issue, you know. You have to think about personal branding. Michael was dazzled. My son, so simple, so noble, had never met anyone like that. To him, Vanessa represented that sophisticated world he had never had access to. What he didn't know was that it was all a facade, smoke and mirrors. Vanessa grew up in Gary, Indiana. in a family that once had money. Her father, Herman, had owned an auto parts distributor. They lived well for years, a 3-story house, 2 cars, vacations in Florida. But when Vanessa was 23, the business went under. Bad investments, fraudulent partners, debts that accumulated like an avalanche. They lost the house, the cars, everything. Her father fell into depression. Her mother, Rebecca, had to start selling costume jewelry at flea markets to survive. But Vanessa decided she would never, ever be poor again. She got a job at the consulting firm by lying on her resume. She added certifications she didn't have. She exaggerated her experience. She was good at talking, at selling smoke, at making mediocre projects sound revolutionary in PowerPoint. She earned $45,000 a year, but she spent $80,000. How? Credit cards, 5 in total. She rotated them like a desperate juggler. She paid the minimum on one with cash, advances from another. She bought brand-name clothes at clearance sales. She carried knockoff handbags so good no one noticed the difference. She leased, she didn't buy. The white BMW she drove was leased. The jewelry she wore was borrowed from her cousin who worked at a jewelry store. Everything was a lie, but it was a lie so well constructed that no one questioned it until she met Michael. That day at the conference, she evaluated him in 30 seconds. Industrial engineer, 30 years old, modest but clean car. Suit not very expensive but well pressed. Simple watch, no ring. She calculated. This man isn't rich, but he has potential. Professional, stable, and best of all, shy, malleable. She approached with a glass of wine in her hand. First time at these conferences? You look lost. Michael blushed. Is it that obvious? Vanessa laughed. A studied, musical laugh. Relax. I can't stand these events either. Want me to show you the trick to survive them? Follow me. And so it began. With a conversation, with that capacity, Vanessa had to make the other person feel special, seen, important. Michael fell completely. They went out 3 times before she allowed him a kiss. She played her cards well, played hard to get. She told him an edited version of her life. A family of old money that had gone through hard times but kept their dignity. My family lost everything, she told him one night, with perfectly measured tears. But they taught me that your name, your education, your class, no one takes that away from you. Michael, noble as always, hugged her. I understand. My mom raised me alone. I know what it is to struggle. Vanessa smiled against his chest. Perfect, a man with a savior complex. When Michael finally introduced her to me, I already knew something didn't add up. Let's call it instinct. Let's call it experience. 40 years building businesses had taught me to read people. The way Vanessa shook my hand, that quick, disdainful grip. Her eyes evaluating every corner of my house, cataloging the value of things. The way she smiled, but her gaze remained cold. I knew that look. I had seen it in clients who came to my shop with counterfeit bills, in suppliers who sold me defective fabric, in potential partners who only wanted to steal my designs. It was the look of someone who is always calculating. What can I get out of this? How does it benefit me? During that first meal, we talked about trivialities, but I asked gentle, casual questions. And your family, Vanessa, what do they do? My father was in the automotive sector. He's retired now, right? Sort of. Where do you live right now? In an apartment in the city. It's small, cozy. She omitted that she rented it with 2 roommates to be able to afford it. And at the consulting firm, what kind of projects do you handle? There she hesitated just a second, but I saw it. Brand strategy, positioning, that kind of thing. Michael looked at her, infatuated, not seeing the contradictions, not noticing how she evaded concrete details. When they left, I called my accountant. Mr. Higgins, I need you to investigate someone discreetly. He looked at me surprised. In all our years working together, I had never asked for something like that. Mrs. Margaret, it's for Michael. I need to know who my son is dating. 3 weeks later, I had a 1-2-page report on Vanessa Sanchez. Credit card debt, $50,000. Bad credit history. 2 personal loans and collections. Real salary, $45,000 annually, not the $85,000 she had told Michael. Family, Father unemployed, mother informal vendor, younger brother with addiction problems. They lived in a Section 8 apartment in Gary. Everything Vanessa had told Michael was a made-up, stretched, retouched version of reality. I sat in my armchair with that report in my hands. My instinct told me, get her away from your son, show him this, protect him. But something stopped me. Michael was genuinely in love. I saw it in his eyes when he talked about her. And if I arrived with proof, with papers, unmasking her, what would happen? He would hate me. He would see me as the meddling mother-in-law, the controlling mother who doesn't want to let go of her son. Besides, part of me understood Vanessa. I had been in her place young, scared, trying to survive in a world that judges you by your bank account. I had also lied. I had exaggerated. I had pretended to be more than I was to get clients. Maybe, I thought, maybe Michael's love will change her. Maybe she will find stability with him and stop chasing ghosts of wealth. I put the report in my safe and decided to wait. It was the biggest mistake of my life because Vanessa wasn't looking for love, she was looking for economic salvation, and she had decided that Michael and eventually I were her ticket out. The following months were a masterclass in manipulation. Vanessa started planting seeds, casual conversations that seemed innocent but had poison in the roots. Honey, doesn't your mom have other relatives to help her? It must be hard for her to be so alone. Have you thought about your mom's future? I mean, when she can no longer fend for herself. It's nice that you keep visiting her every Sunday. Although don't you think we should start building our own traditions as a couple? Little by little, Michael started seeing me differently. I was no longer his mother, strong and independent. I was becoming the little old lady who needed protection, the future burden that had to be managed. When they announced their engagement, Vanessa visited me alone. For the first time, she knocked on my door on a Tuesday afternoon. She was wearing designer jeans and a spotless white blouse. Perfect smile. Margaret, can we talk? I made her coffee. We sat in my dining room. I want us to be friends, she began. You are very important to Michael, and that's why you are important to me. I nodded, waiting. I know you have struggled a lot. That you raised Michael alone. That speaks of an incredible woman. Dramatic pause. That is why I want you to know that when we get married, you are never going to be alone. We are going to take care of you like family. Her words sounded sweet, but her eyes studied me, looking for cracks, weaknesses. I appreciate it, Vanessa, but I am fine. I don't need anyone to take care of me. Something crossed her face. Annoyance, quickly covered with another smile. Of course. I just want you to know you can count on us for anything. She left half an hour later, but she left something in the air. A silent warning. You are in my way, her eyes said, and I am going to move you. That night I took the report out of my safe, read it again, and made a decision. I wasn't going to interfere yet. But I wasn't going to lower my guard either. Vanessa wanted to play, but she didn't know who she was messing with, because I had built an empire from scratch. I had survived widowhood, debts, discrimination. I had learned to fight in a world that gives you nothing for free. And if Vanessa thought a little seamstress was easy prey, she was about to discover her mistake, the most expensive mistake of her life. The wedding was just the beginning. What came after was a systematic, calculated, almost surgical campaign to erase me from my son's life. Vanessa didn't attack head-on. She was too smart for that. Instead, she worked like humidity, slow, invisible, but destroying the foundation from the inside. The first 6 months of marriage were relatively quiet. Michael visited me every 2 weeks. Vanessa always had an excuse not to join him. I have a meeting, I have a headache, I'm tired from work. I prepared his favorite food, pot roast with mashed potatoes, like when he was a boy. We sat in my dining room, and he told me about his life. But I noticed small changes. At first, Michael started arriving with new clothes that I knew he couldn't afford. Brand-name shirts, Italian shoes. Vanessa says I should look more professional to grow in the company, he explained. He changed his phone for the newest model. Vanessa bought it as a wedding gift. They bought expensive furniture for the house. Vanessa found an incredible deal. Every sentence began with Vanessa says, Vanessa thinks, Vanessa wants. My son was becoming an echo of his wife. One Sunday, 8 months after the wedding, Michael arrived with a strange, worried expression. He sat on the sofa and looked at me with those eyes that always melted my heart. "Mom, I need to talk to you about something important." My stomach tightened. "Tell me, honey." "Vanessa and I have been talking about your situation, and we are worried." "My situation?" I raised an eyebrow. "Yes. Living alone at your age, Mom. You're already 66. What if you fall? If you get sick? If someone tries to rob you? This house is old. The neighborhood isn't as safe anymore." Every word was a repetition of something I was sure Vanessa had planted in his head. "Michael, I am perfectly fine. I know all my neighbors. Mrs. Robinson next door brings me sweet bread every morning. Mr. Arthur helps me with repairs. I am not alone." "I know, Mom, but it's not enough." He breathed deeply. "Vanessa and I want you to come live with us." There was the first real move. "My love, I truly appreciate the offer, but this is my house. Here are my memories of your father, of when you were a boy, my sewing workshop, my life." Michael rubbed his face in frustration. "Mom, I know it's hard, but think about the future when you really can't fend for yourself. Wouldn't it be better to make the change now while you can still adapt?" The logic of his words was poisoned with good intentions. Vanessa had trained him well. "Son, when that day comes, if it comes, we will consider it. But today is not that day. Is that clear?" I saw the disappointment in his face. He left half an hour later with the container of roast I had prepared for him, but with the weight of something unresolved between us. That night, I received a call. Vanessa. First time she called me directly. "Margaret, I'm very sorry if the conversation today made you uncomfortable. Michael is just worried about you." Her voice was poisoned, honey. "I understand, Vanessa. But there is nothing to worry about." Of course. It's just that, well, Michael told me that you sometimes forget things, names, dates, and at our age that can be a sign of sorry." I interrupted her, feeling rage rise up my spine. "What exactly did Michael tell you?" "Oh, I don't want to worry you." "Probably just nerves, but he mentioned that last week you forgot you had agreed to meet, and—" It was a lie, a complete lie. Michael had canceled our appointment, not me. But Vanessa was rewriting history, planting doubts about my mental health. "Vanessa," I said with a firm voice, "my mind is perfectly clear. I manage my finances, my house, my sewing business. I haven't forgotten anything." There was a silence. Then her voice changed, colder. "Well, if you say so. We just wanted to help, but I understand you are proud. Michael warned me about that." She hung up before I could respond. I remained sitting in the dark of my living room holding the phone. Now I understood her strategy. She wasn't attacking me directly. She was attacking my credibility with Michael, painting me as the stubborn, forgetful old woman who doesn't recognize her own limitations. It was brilliant and dangerous. The following months, the campaign intensified. Vanessa convinced Michael that I needed help organizing my important documents. One Saturday, they arrived together. Vanessa brought a bright pink plastic folder. "Margaret, we brought this for you to keep your important papers, birth certificates, deeds, medical documents. Where do you have them?" "Stored in a safe place. Thank you." "But where exactly?" "It is important for Michael to know in case of emergency." Michael nodded worriedly. "It's true, Mom. If something happens to you, I need to know where your documents are." I refused politely, but firmly. "When it is necessary, I will inform you. For now, everything is under control." I saw frustration in Vanessa's eyes. She hadn't gained access to my papers. Then she tried another tactic. She suggested that Michael help me manage my money. "Your mom shouldn't worry about paying bills at her age. You could handle that for her. It would be one less burden." Michael proposed it to me during a visit. "Mom, let me help you. I can pay your electricity, water, phone bills from my account. You just tell me how much you spend a month and I'll take care of it." "It's not necessary, son. I handle everything perfectly." "But, Mom," Michael. My voice was harder than usual. "I appreciate your intention, but I don't need you to manage me. Is that clear?" He blinked, surprised. I rarely spoke to him like that, but Vanessa didn't give up. Every rejected strategy was replaced by a new one. When Vanessa got pregnant, everything changed speed. Michael arrived beaming to give me the news. "Mom, I'm going to be a dad. You're going to be a grandma." I hugged him with genuine tears. My grandson, a little piece of James living in this new generation. But Vanessa used the pregnancy as a weapon. Margaret, with the baby on the way, we are going to need space. And frankly, your house is bigger than our place. Have you thought about selling and buying something smaller? We could use that money for the baby's education. She said it casually during a family visit, as if she were suggesting what to have for dinner. This house is not for sale, I replied. Oh, don't be offended. It's just a suggestion. Although realistically, when you are gone, the house is going to pass to Michael anyway. Wouldn't it be better to take advantage of it now that the baby needs it? She spoke of my death like someone talking about the weather with that chilling naturalness. Michael said nothing, just looked at his plate, uncomfortable. Then came the real blow. A month before that fateful Christmas, Michael arrived with papers. His face was serious, rehearsed. Mom, Vanessa and I consulted with a lawyer about asset protection. Yes, the lawyer says that at your age you should have everything in order just in case, and that the safest thing is for you to transfer the house to my name now to avoid legal problems later. There was the final goal, my house. And why would we need to do that, Michael? To protect you, Mom. If the government, or if there are tax problems, or if someone tries to take advantage. They were excuses without substance, phrases Vanessa had put in his head. And my bank documents also need protection? Michael cleared his throat. Well, the lawyer suggested it would be prudent for you to give me power of attorney, just as a precaution so I can help you if something happens. Power of attorney. Total access to my accounts, my assets, my life. I looked at my son, really looked at him, and for the first time in 66 years, I didn't recognize the man in front of me. Michael, I said softly. Do you truly believe I cannot manage my own affairs? It's not that, Mom. Then what is it? Silence. Long, uncomfortable. Finally, he sighed. Vanessa says. I don't care what Vanessa says. My voice cut the air like a razor. I am asking what you think. I saw him hesitate. For a second, I saw my real son there, struggling to come out, but then he clenched his jaw and said, I think Vanessa is right. You are stubborn, Mom, and that could get you into trouble. Every word was a stab wound. But I breathed and took the papers. I read them carefully. They were to transfer my house, the smallest one, valued at $450,000 to his name. Okay, I said finally. Michael seemed surprised. Really? Yes. If this gives you peace of mind, son, I will do it. I signed right there with Mr. Higgins as a witness, whom I had called previously, of course. Michael hugged me. Thanks, Mom. This is for the best. You'll see. What he didn't know was that house was my least valuable property, that I had 8 other properties generating millions, that I had just given him the crumbs while the real banquet remained hidden. But I needed them to believe they had won, that they had gotten everything I had, because when they discovered the truth, the fall would be much more painful. And that Christmas, the moment of the toast arrived, the moment Vanessa, drunk on power and champagne, announced that she would now control everything, that my card had been canceled, that I was officially under her administration, and everyone applauded my family, my blood celebrating my humiliation. But then I smiled and asked, Son, you really don't know, do you? And Vanessa's world began to crumble privately. But before reaching that revelation at Christmas dinner, I need you to understand the hell I lived those last 3 months. Because Vanessa didn't just want my money, she wanted my dignity, my spirit. She wanted to see me kneeling, and she almost succeeded. After signing the transfer of the house, something changed. Vanessa no longer pretended. She had gotten what she believed was my only asset. So the masks fell. The first humiliation came 2 weeks later. It was Sunday, the day of my monthly visit to Michael's house. I rang the doorbell at 2 p.m., as we had agreed. Vanessa opened the door. She was wearing an ivory silk robe, hair up in a messy bun, face without makeup. Her 4-month belly was already showing. Oh, Margaret, did Michael not tell you? We can't receive you today. We have important visitors. Through the half-open door, I saw the empty living room. No visitors. Michael confirmed yesterday that I should come today, I said, holding the container with lasagna I had prepared since 5 inches the morning. Vanessa sighed as if I were a stupid child. Well, he told you wrong. Besides, Margaret, we need to talk about these surprise visits. Now that the baby is coming, we can't be receiving people without planning. Michael will call you to schedule when it is convenient. Schedule. I repeated the word as if it were poison in my mouth. I am his mother, not a dentist appointment. I know, but things change. You understand. She started to close the door. Leave the lasagna. I'll give it to Michael. She extended her hand to take the container like I was a delivery driver, as if I weren't the woman who had raised her husband alone for 30 years. No, I said, stepping back. This lasagna is for my son. I will give it to him when I see him. Vanessa narrowed her eyes. Suit yourself. Have a good day. The door closed in my face. I stood there on the porch of that pretty house, in that private community, holding cooling lasagna, feeling smaller than I had felt in years. I went back home in a taxi. I didn't eat. The lasagna stayed in the refrigerator. 3 days later, I threw it away. It had spoiled. Like my relationship with my son. Michael called me the following Wednesday. Mom, sorry about Sunday. Something came up last minute. He didn't mention important visitors. He didn't mention that Vanessa had kicked me out. Just an empty apology. It's okay, son. I lied. Because what else could I say? The next humiliation was worse. Vanessa called me on a Tuesday afternoon. Margaret, I need to ask you a favor. Tell me. I have an appointment with the OBGYN tomorrow at 11. Michael has a meeting and can't accompany me. Could you take me? And while we're at it, you can help me with some shopping for the baby. Something in my chest rejoiced. Maybe this was an olive branch. Maybe we could start over. Of course, dear. With pleasure. I arrived at her house at 10:30, punctual. I brought my purse with extra money in case they needed something for my grandson. Vanessa came out dressed impeccably, lavender maternity dress, low heels, brand name bag. She looked me up and down. I was wearing my normal clothes, jeans, an embroidered blouse, comfortable shoes. Oh, Margaret, you're going like that? Sorry. No, nothing. It's just that we are going to go to the mall afterwards. But well, never mind. She said no more, but the message was clear. I looked bad. I wasn't at her level. At the doctor's office, the gynecologist received us. Is this Mom? She asked me, smiling. No, it's the mother-in-law, Vanessa corrected quickly. My mom had an unexpected issue. During the entire consultation, Vanessa treated me as if I were invisible. She didn't include me in the conversations. When the doctor asked something, she responded looking only at Vanessa. Do you have family support for when the baby is born? Yes. My mom is going to come help me the first few months, Vanessa replied. I was sitting there, a yard away, and she had just erased me. Afterwards, we went to the mall. Vanessa went into an expensive baby store, stroller, crib, bottles, clothes. She kept pointing at things. I like this. This too. This, yes. The saleswoman totaled it up, $2,500. Vanessa turned toward me. Margaret, can you help us with this? It's for your grandson. There it was. The real reason for inviting me. I took out my wallet. Inside, I had $200 in cash. It was what I normally carried. I brought $200. Vanessa. I didn't know we were going to buy so much. I saw her expression change. Disappointment. Then contempt. 200, that's it? She laughed. A cruel laugh. Well, I suppose that's what's possible. Leave it, I'll pay the rest. She took out a gold credit card, surely Michael's, and paid. The saleswoman looked at us uncomfortably. Next time let me know in advance, I said, and I can bring more. Vanessa looked at me like one looks at an insect. Don't worry, Margaret. I understand now. Michael was right. You don't have much to contribute. Every word was a nail in my heart. On the way back, we didn't speak. She dropped me off at my house without even getting out of the car. That night I cried. For the first time in years, I cried until I ran out of tears. But the worst was still to come. One Saturday, Michael called me. Mom, we are going to have a family gathering next weekend. My cousins, their wives, the kids. Vanessa wants everyone to see her bump. Can you come? Of course, son. Should I bring something? No, just come. I arrived with a chocolate cake I had baked Michael's favorite since he was a boy. The house was full. Cousins, nephews, sisters-in-law, everyone well-dressed, drinking wine, laughing. Vanessa was the center of attention, with her tight dress, showing off her belly, receiving congratulations. I entered with my cake. No one greeted me. I looked for Michael. He was in the backyard with his cousins grilling meat. "Son, I brought cake." "Oh, thanks, Mom. Leave it in the kitchen." I went to the kitchen. There were my nephews' wives, Sarah and Emily, preparing salads. "Good afternoon," I greeted. "Oh, Margaret, glad you came," Sarah said, but her tone was condescending. "Vanessa told us you already gave them the house. What a nice gesture." Emily nodded. "Yes, how good. At your age, you don't need those worries anymore." I left the cake on the table. "Where should I put it?" Vanessa entered at that moment, saw my cake, wrinkled her nose. "Oh, Margaret, I told Michael not to bring anything. We already have dessert. We bought a cake from a French bakery." She pointed to an elegant box on the counter. "But thanks. We can save it for later." She took my cake, 3 hours of work made with love, and put it in the refrigerator, in the back, hidden. "Come, Margaret, let's go to the living room. But be careful with the white sofa. It's new. Better if you sit on the wooden chair." She pointed to a hard, uncomfortable chair in a corner, as if I were a punished child. I sat down, watched my family laugh, toast, celebrate. No one included me in the conversations. When I tried to participate, they ignored me or changed the subject. At mealtime, they served the plate steak, gourmet salads, elaborate sides. They gave me a plate, but I noticed it had less meat than the others, more salad, as if they were rationing me. Vanessa stood up with her glass. "Family, I want to thank you for being here. This baby is going to be born surrounded by love." She looked at everyone. Her eyes passed over me as if I were part of the furniture. "I especially thank my mom, who is going to come take care of me after the birth. I don't know what I would do without her." Everyone applauded. I didn't exist. I ate in silence. My cake never came out of the refrigerator. At 6 p.m. I left. No one noticed my absence. 2 weeks later came the final blow before Christmas. I went to the bank to withdraw money from my personal account, the one that held $300 a month from my pension, my facade account. I put my card in the ATM. Card blocked. I went into the branch. The executive reviewed my account. "Mrs. Margaret, your card was canceled by request of the authorized holder, a Mr. Michael Mendez." I felt the floor move. "How?" "It says here he requested the cancellation a week ago as a protection measure for senior citizens." Michael had canceled my card without telling me, without consulting me. I called my son furious. "Mom, wait, let me explain. Vanessa read an article about scams on the elderly and we thought it was better." "We thought, or Vanessa thought?" "Mom, don't get mad, it's for your protection. Now, if you need money, just tell me and I'll give it to you." "You're going to give me my own money?" "It's not like that. It's just that, give me back my card, Michael." "I can't, Mom. It's already decided. This is for the best." I hung up, trembling with rage and helplessness. That night, I took the documents out of my safe, read them all, my properties, my investments, my secret empire, and I made a decision. Enough. The lie is over. Being invisible is over. Letting them trample me is over. If they wanted to play at controlling me, if they wanted to treat me like a useless old woman, if they wanted to humiliate me, I was going to show them who Margaret really was. And Christmas would be the perfect stage. I called Mr. Higgins. "I need you to prepare something for me. For Christmas dinner, bring all the documents. All of them." "Are you sure, Mrs. Margaret?" "Completely. Because Vanessa had made a fatal error. She believed that humiliating me would break me, but all she did was wake up the warrior that had been asleep for years. And when a woman who built an empire from scratch decides to fight, there is no mercy." Christmas morning I woke up at 5, not out of habit, but because I couldn't sleep. I sat on the edge of my bed, looking at the darkness outside my window. The neighbors' Christmas lights blinked weakly. I could hear distant carols from a nearby house. I touched the wine-colored shawl I had left ready on the chair. I had knitted it myself 15 years ago, when Michael turned 17. Every stitch carried a prayer, a wish for my son to be happy. Today that same son would see me like never before. I showered, dressed carefully, black dress pants, a hand-embroidered beige blouse, the shawl over my shoulders. Nothing ostentatious, nothing that drew attention. I wanted to look exactly like what Vanessa thought I was, a simple, defeated old lady. At 8 a.m., my doorbell rang. It was Mr. Higgins. He entered with a brown leather briefcase. He set it on my dining table with a solid thud. Inside was my real life. All the documents. All the proof. "Are you completely sure about this, Mrs. Margaret?" he asked, taking off his glasses to clean them. A nervous gesture he made when he was worried. "More sure than ever, Arthur. It's going to change everything. Your relationship with your son." "My relationship with my son already changed." I interrupted him. "Michael decided who I am without asking me. Vanessa decided what I'm worth without knowing me. Today they are going to discover they were wrong." Higgins nodded slowly. "What time do you want me to arrive?" "At 9 p.m. Michael said the toast would be at 9:30. You arrive right after the toast. I will call you." He left. I stayed alone in my house with the brown briefcase on the table. I opened it. I went over every document as if it were the first time seeing them. Deeds to 8 commercial properties valued together at $5.2 million. Lease agreements, monthly income, $20,000. 3 condos in the Gold Coast, valuation $3.5 million, monthly rents $15,000. Investment certificates, mutual funds, bonds, total $4.3 million. Total net worth over $13 million. And Michael knew nothing. Absolutely nothing. I closed the briefcase. I breathed deeply. "James," I whispered to the air, speaking to the ghost of my husband dead for 40 years. "I wish you were here. I wish you could tell me if I'm doing the right thing." Silence was my only answer. At 6 p.m., I took a taxi to Michael's house. I carried a container with my famous hot apple cider apples, cinnamon, cloves, and a bag with wrapped gifts for the baby due in March. The taxi stopped in front of the house. 2 stories, modern facade, manicured lawn. The house Michael thought he could pay for only with his effort. He didn't know he was drowning in credit card debt that Vanessa used as if money were infinite. I rang the bell. Michael opened, smiling. He was wearing a ridiculous Christmas sweater with an embroidered reindeer. He hugged me. "Mom, glad you made it." "Come in, come in." He smelled like his usual cologne. For a second he was my boy again, the one who ran to hug me when he came back from school. But then Vanessa appeared. Tight peach dress, V neckline, perfect waves, 5 months pregnant. She looked radiant, powerful. "Margaret, good that you could come." Emphasis on could. It was subtle but venomous. The house was full. My nephews and their families had already arrived. Sarah and Emily, the sisters-in-law, were in the kitchen laughing. Kids ran through the living room. Everything smelled of roast turkey and hot cider. I sat in the armchair they indicated, the same one from the last gathering, hard, uncomfortable, in the corner. Vanessa brought me a glass of sparkling cider. "Here you go." Margaret, non-alcoholic. Of course, at your age alcohol isn't good. I was 68, not 90. But I said nothing, just smiled. "Thank you, dear." Dinner went normally. Well, normal for what my life had become. Conversations I was excluded from, looks that ignored me, laughter that didn't include me. I ate my turkey again, a smaller portion than the others, and observed, memorizing every face, every gesture of contempt. At 9 sharp, Vanessa stood up, tapped her glass with a spoon. The clinking silenced the conversations. "Family, it is time for an important toast." Everyone raised their glasses. I did too. Slowly. Vanessa radiated confidence. She had practiced this moment, planned it. "Today we not only celebrate Christmas, we celebrate a new beginning for this family." Michael looked at her proudly. His cousins sat expectant. "As you know, in March our baby arrives. This has made us reflect on responsibilities, on the future." She paused dramatically. Her hand caressed her belly. "That is why Michael and I have made an important decision." My heart beat slow, heavy, like a war drum. "Starting today, I am going to manage all the finances of this family." Silence, absolute. It is time for someone young, prepared, with a modern vision, to take control. Michael has worked very hard. He deserves someone to optimize his resources. Several nodded. "Very well thought out," murmured Sarah. Vanessa continued. And now her gaze locked on me like a predator cornering its prey. "Margaret, I know this might be hard to understand, but it's for the best. At your age, you shouldn't worry about money, about paying bills, about deciding expenses." She smiled, a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "That is why. This morning, Michael and I canceled your credit card. I heard stifled gasps, but not of indignation, of approval. It was the right thing, added Emily. My mother-in-law should do that too. These older ladies sometimes spend on unnecessary things. Laughter. Damned laughter. Vanessa raised her glass higher. So let's toast to a prosperous future, to a baby who will be born into an organized family, to smart decisions. Cheers, everyone shouted. They clinked glasses, drank, celebrated my humiliation. Michael approached me. He touched my shoulder. Mom, I know it's a change, but this is good. You won't have to worry about anything anymore. If you need something, anything, just ask me. I'll give it to you. He looked at me with pity. My own son looked at me the way one looks at a nuisance that needs managing. Vanessa approached too, radiant. See, Margaret? Now you can live calmly, without stress, like a grandma should. Everyone looked at me waiting, wanting to see how the little old lady reacted, if she cried, if she begged, if she broke. I set my glass on the table. The sound of crystal against wood resonated louder than I expected. I stood up, slowly. I felt every one of my 68 years in my knees, but I straightened up, back straight, chin up. I looked my son directly in those honey-colored eyes that once looked at me with pure love, and I smiled. Not a sad smile, not a defeated smile. A calm, enigmatic, dangerous smile. Son, I said softly. My voice cut the silence like a knife through butter. You really don't know, do you? Michael blinked. Something in my tone disconcerted him. Know what, Mom? The atmosphere changed, like when the sky darkens before a storm. Everyone felt the change. Conversations died. Children stopped running. Vanessa stepped forward with a high-pitched, nervous voice. Know what, Margaret? I didn't answer immediately. I let the silence grow, let the tension become unbearable. I looked at both of them, then at my whole family, one by one, engraving their faces in my memory. Mr. Higgins, I said finally, taking out my phone. Can you come now? I dialed 2 tones. Mrs. Margaret? Bring the brown folder, please. The family is ready. I hung up. Vanessa looked at me with confusion, rapidly turning into panic. What? What are you doing? Waiting, I answered calmly. I sat back down. I crossed my hands on my lap. You are going to meet someone important. Michael approached. Mom, what are you talking about? Who is Mr. Higgins? My lawyer. Well, one of them. One of? Michael went pale. You have lawyers? Several, my love. When you manage a certain volume of assets, lawyers are necessary. The words fell like bombs. Sarah whispered, Assets? Vanessa laughed, a nervous, forced laugh. Margaret, I don't understand your jokes. What assets? You barely have. Barely have what? Vanessa. I interrupted her. My voice was no longer soft, it was steel. Finish the sentence. She opened her mouth, closed it, had no answer. 20 minutes later, the longest 20 minutes of their lives, the doorbell rang. Michael opened the door like an automaton. Mr. Arthur Higgins entered, 60 years old, thick glasses, impeccable gray suit, brown briefcase in hand. Good evening, family, he greeted formally. I am Arthur Higgins, CPA and legal advisor to Mrs. Margaret since 20 years ago. 20 years. I let that number float in the air. He approached me. Mrs. Margaret. Arthur, please, show them. He opened the briefcase on the dining table. He began taking out documents one after another. Deeds, contracts, certificates, statements. The table filled with papers. Michael approached, picked one up, read it, went pale. This says you own a pharmacy in the suburbs. That's right, I confirmed. I bought it 18 years ago for $300,000. Now it's worth $900,000. I rent it for $6,000 a month. He picked up another document. His hands were trembling. 3 medical offices in the Gold Coast. I bought them in the 2008 crisis. Excellent investment. Another document. A cafe, a stationery store, a beauty salon, all rented. Passive income, son. Money that comes in without me lifting a finger. Vanessa approached, stumbling, snatched documents, read them with wild eyes. This can't be real. This is. These are 3 condos in the city, I continued. each one valued at over $1 million, rented to foreign executives, $5,000 a month each. Mr. Higgins continued pulling out papers like a magician, pulling scarves from a hat. But these scarves were dynamite. Investment certificates, $4.3 million in funds, bonds. The room was in sepulchral silence. Only the rustle of paper could be heard. Sarah whispered, "My God." Emily had collapsed into a chair, mouth open. Michael looked at me as if I were a stranger. "Mom, what is all this?" I stood up. Slowly. I took one of the documents, the most important one. "This, my love, is who I really am. The widowed seamstress you thought was your mother? That was just part of the story." I walked toward him, put the document in his hands. Total net worth, $13.2 million, generating monthly income of $45,000 in rents and interest. Vanessa emitted a sound. Half moan, half stifled scream. But, she stammered. "The house. You gave us your house. You said it was all you had." I smiled, cold, calculating. "That house, the one you so kindly accepted to protect me, is my least valuable property. It's worth $450,000, about 3% of my net worth." The math hit Vanessa like a bucket of ice water. "I gave you crumbs," I continued, "while you thought you were conquering my kingdom." Michael dropped the papers, put his hands to his head. "Mom, I don't understand why. Why did you never tell me?" And there was the question I had waited for. I approached my son, touched his face like when he was a boy, "Because I wanted you to love me for who I am, not for what I have. I wanted you to become a man on your own merits, not because of my money." Tears rolled down my cheeks, the first genuine tears of the night. "But Vanessa taught you that money is worth more than love, that power is worth more than family. And today, my son, today you chose to humiliate the one who gave you life, believing you had rights over crumbs that didn't even exist." The silence was deafening. Vanessa was pale, whiter than her wedding dress had been, because in that moment she understood her mistake. She had bet everything on a lie and had just lost. Vanessa was the first to react, but not as I expected. Not with apologies, not with shame, with fury. "This is a trap," she screamed, her voice breaking into a sharp shriek. "You lied to us. You deceived us. You made us believe you were poor." Her face was red, the veins in her neck stood out, her hand grabbed her pregnant belly like a shield. "I never lied to you," I responded with glacial calm. "You assumed. You never asked what I had. I never asked for financial help. I never said I was poor. You created that story in your head. But you didn't tell us the truth either." Vanessa turned to Michael desperately. See how she is? Your mother is a manipulative liar." Michael was motionless, in shock. He looked at the documents scattered on the table as if they were written in a foreign language. Mr. Higgins cleared his throat. "Allow me to clarify, Mrs. Vanessa. Mrs. Margaret never committed fraud or illegal concealment. All her income is declared to the IRS. She pays taxes religiously. Her properties are registered correctly. Legally, there is nothing to claim." Vanessa ignored him. She turned to the other guests as if looking for allies. "Do you hear this? This lady hid millions while watching her son kill himself working." Sarah and Emily exchanged uncomfortable looks. They didn't look so sure of themselves anymore. "Michael was not killing himself," I corrected. "Michael earned an honest salary doing honest work. I paid every dollar of his education, $40,000 a year for 5 years. I bought him his first car when he graduated. I helped him when he needed it. But I wanted him to learn to fend for himself, not to depend on inheritances, to build his own life." "How convenient," spat Vanessa. "What a pretty speech. But the truth is, you enjoyed watching us suffer, watching us beg, feeling superior. Something inside me broke. The patience I had maintained for 3 years exploded." "Suffer?" My voice rose in volume. "Suffer? Do you know what it is to suffer, Vanessa?" I took a step toward her. She shrank back. I was left a widow at 28, 7 months pregnant, with $45,000 in debts threatening to take the roof over my head. I sewed until my fingers bled. I ate macaroni to ensure my son had milk. That is suffering. I took a breath, my chest rising and falling with force. You suffered because you couldn't buy the designer bag you wanted, because your leased BMW wasn't yours, because your credit cards were at the limit of $50,000 you spent on whims. Vanessa went pale. How? I took another document from the pile, threw it at her. It fell at her feet. Private investigation. I hired a detective a year ago when I started suspecting who you really were. She bent down to pick it up with trembling hands. She read it. Her face went from white to green. Your family went bankrupt when you were 23. Your father is unemployed. Your mother sells jewelry at flea markets. Your brother has addiction problems. You live in a Section 8 apartment in Gary. Every word was a slap. Everything you told Michael about your old money family was a lie. The BMW is leased. The jewelry is borrowed. The brand name clothes you buy on clearance or are knockoffs. Michael finally spoke. His voice sounded broken. Is that true, Vanessa? She didn't answer. She just cried. But they weren't tears of repentance. They were tears of rage, of humiliation. Mr. Higgins continued relentlessly. And there is more, Mr. Michael. Your wife has 5 credit cards in her name, all maxed out. Total debt, $65,000, with interest accumulating at 28% annually. Michael staggered. He had to lean against the wall. 5 cards? Vanessa, you told me you only had one for emergencies. I was going to tell you, she stammered. When? When they foreclosed on the house? I took another document. This was the most painful for me to share, but it was necessary. Michael, there is something else you must know. I extended a paper to him. He took it with hands that wouldn't stop shaking. Vanessa started going out with you 3 weeks after her previous relationship ended. A 4-5-year-old businessman, married. She was his mistress for 2 years. He paid for her apartment, clothes, trips. When his wife found out and forced him to end it, Vanessa looked for a replacement. No, whispered Michael. I'm sorry, son, but you needed to know. Vanessa didn't fall in love with you. She fell in love with what she thought you were. A stable engineer with a mother who would eventually leave an inheritance, a retirement plan. Vanessa exploded. That's not true. I love Michael. All this is because you are a bitter witch who can't stand her son having his own family. You love him? I asked softly. Then tell me, Vanessa, when you canceled my card without asking me, when you served me food on chipped plates while you ate on porcelain, when you made me wait at the door like a beggar, when you hid my cake in the fridge so no one would see it, was that love? Loving Michael meant destroying his mother? Silence. Michael looked at me with tears rolling down his face. Mom, I didn't know. I didn't know she. I know, son. That's why I'm doing this. Not to hurt you, but to open your eyes before it's too late. Vanessa changed tactics. She knelt in front of Michael, dramatic, grabbing his hands. Baby, please, don't believe her. She is trying to separate us, to ruin our family. Think of our baby. Of our son. Michael looked at her, and for the first time I saw something in his eyes I had never seen before. Doubt. Vanessa, is it true about the businessman? She hesitated just a second, but it was enough. I'm send. That was a long time ago, before I met you. It means nothing. And the credit cards? I can explain. And your parents? Your family? Michael, I just wanted you to accept me. I was afraid you would reject me. And if you knew? If I knew what, Vanessa? If I knew you lied to me about absolutely everything? His voice rose. Years of frustration, of manipulation, of half-truths finally exploding. Vanessa stood up. Her mask had fallen completely. She was no longer the sweet and worried wife. She was a desperate woman, cornered. So what if I lied? She screamed. You never would have looked at me if you knew I came from Gary, that my mom sells necklaces on the street. You wanted a princess, right? Well, I gave you what you wanted. I wanted honesty, replied Michael, his voice cracking. I wanted truth. Vanessa laughed, a bitter laugh full of poison. Truth? Like the truth your mother hid from you for 40 years? At least I lied about my past. She lied about millions of dollars. She turned to me with pure hatred in her eyes. You ruined everything. We could have been happy. We could have had a good life, but you couldn't stand seeing us happy, right? You weren't happy, I said calmly. You were building on lies, and lies always collapse. Always. Shut up, Shut up. Vanessa grabbed her purse. I'm not staying here listening to this. Michael, we're leaving now. Michael didn't move. Michael, I said we're leaving. No. That word, 2 letters. But they sounded like thunder. What did you say? I said no, Vanessa. I'm not leaving. I need to think. I need to process all this. Process? Process? Vanessa was hysterical. Your mother just humiliated me in front of your whole family. She exposed me. She destroyed me. And you need to think? You lied to me, Vanessa. About everything. About your family, your past, the money, everything. Because I loved you. Because I wanted to be enough for you. If you loved me, Michael said, and his voice was pure pain, you would have respected my mother. You wouldn't have humiliated her. You wouldn't have taken her dignity. Vanessa opened her mouth, closed it. She had no defense for that. I think you should go, Michael continued. For tonight, go to your parents' house, your real parents, the ones who live in Gary. And tomorrow we'll talk. If I leave now, Vanessa threatened, her voice dangerous, I'm not coming back. Michael looked at her for a long time. Then don't come back. The world stopped. Vanessa looked at him with disbelief, waiting for him to retract, to run after her, to beg, but Michael turned around and walked toward me. Vanessa remained there frozen for 5 eternal seconds. Then, with a scream of fury, she grabbed her bag and left. The door closed with a slam that made the walls shake. The silence she left was absolute. The guests were petrified. No one knew what to say, what to do. Finally, Sarah cleared her throat. We think it's time to go. Thanks for dinner. One by one, the family scurried away with muttered apologies, with ashamed looks, until only 3 of us remained. Michael, Mr. Higgins, and me. Michael collapsed onto the sofa, covered his face with his hands, and cried. He cried like I hadn't seen him cry since he was a boy. I sat next to him, put my hand on his back, said nothing, just was there. Mr. Higgins discreetly packed the documents. Mrs. Margaret, do you need anything else from me tonight? No, Arthur. Thank you for everything. At your service. Have a good night. He left. And there we were, mother and son, in that pretty house that had become a battlefield. Michael finally spoke. His voice was hoarse. Mom, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I know, my love. I didn't know. I didn't know what Vanessa was doing to you. I didn't know. I didn't know anything. I know. Why did you never tell me about the money? About everything? I breathed deeply. Because I wanted you to fall in love with life, not money. I wanted you to build your own path. But I was wrong, son. I was wrong to hide so much from you. And that created the space for Vanessa to manipulate you. He turned to me. His eyes were red, swollen. Now, what do I do, Mom? I have a baby on the way, a wife who lied to me, a life that is crumbling. I hugged him like when he was a child and had nightmares. Now, my love, you rebuild with truth, with dignity. And I will be here, as I have always been. He cried in my arms until he fell asleep. That night I covered my 2-year-old son with a blanket. I turned off the lights. I cleaned up what remained of Christmas dinner, and while I washed dishes in that silent kitchen, I wondered if I had done the right thing. I had destroyed his marriage, exposed Vanessa, revealed secrets that perhaps should have stayed buried. But when I saw my reflection in the kitchen window, I saw a woman who had finally recovered her dignity. And that, after all, was worth more than any secret. The days after Christmas were strange, like walking in a world where gravity works differently. Michael stayed at my house, in his old room, which I had kept exactly as he left it when he went to live alone. Football posters, shelves with his school trophies, the twin bed with the blue-striped duvet. We didn't talk much those first days, he processed. I waited. 3 days after Christmas, Vanessa called. It was 11 inches the morning. Michael watched the phone vibrating on the breakfast table. He let it ring. Aren't you going to answer? I asked. I don't know what to tell her. The phone stopped ringing. 30 seconds later, it started again. This time, Michael answered. Put it on speaker. I guess he wanted me to hear. Michael, we need to talk. Vanessa's voice sounded calm, too calm, calculated. I'm listening. No, not on the phone. Come home, please. We need to resolve this like adults. I don't know what is truth and what is a lie with you anymore, Vanessa. There was a pause. When she spoke again, her voice cracked. I know I messed up. I know I lied to you. But I did it because I love you, Michael. Because I was afraid of losing you. You lied to me about your family, about your past, about the money, about everything. I know, and I am going to spend the rest of my life making up for it. But honey, we have a baby on the way. Our son. Are you really going to destroy our family over the mistakes I made? Masterstroke. Using the baby as a shield. I saw Michael hesitate. I am not trying to destroy anything. I am trying to understand who you really are. I am the woman who loves you, the mother of your son. That is what matters, isn't it? Another pause. Your mom put poison in your head, Michael. She showed you papers, told you half-truths, manipulated you to hate me. My mom showed me the truth. The truth? Or her version of the truth? Vanessa's voice became harder. Think about it well. She hid millions for 40 years. She watched you struggle, work, drown in debt, and never moved a finger to help you. And I'm the villain? Michael looked at me confused, hurt. Vanessa, enough. No, it's not enough, because now your mom has you there in her house under her control. Don't you see what she's doing? She is taking you away from me, from your wife, from your baby. She is repeating the same pattern as always. Controlling you. No one controls me. Oh no? Then come home now. Show me you can make your own decisions without your mommy telling you what to do. It was pure and crystalline manipulation, but brilliant. Michael clenched his jaw. I'm coming over, but not to come back. To talk like you said. Like adults. I'll wait for you. She hung up. Michael stood up. Mom, I need to do this. I need to talk to her, clear things up. I know, son, go, but go with your eyes open. He left half an hour later. I stayed home knitting a blanket for the baby due in 3 months. Hands busy, mind restless. Michael returned 4 hours later. His face was pale, undone. What happened? He let himself fall onto the sofa. Vanessa has a plan. What kind of plan? She wants us to go to couples therapy, to save our marriage. She showed me YouTube videos about families overcoming crises. She talked about the baby, about how our son deserves united parents. He breathed deeply. And then he told me something that froze my blood. I waited. She told me that if I don't come back to her, if we don't fix this, she is going to sue me for maximum alimony. She is going to ask for the house. She is going to make this as dirty and painful as possible. I closed my eyes. Of course, when emotional manipulation doesn't work, threats come. And what did you tell her? That I need time. That I can't just erase all the lies and pretend nothing happened. He rubbed his face. Mom, what do I do? I sat next to him. I took his hands. Son, I can't decide this for you. It is your life, your marriage, your baby. But I am going to tell you what I can offer you. Support. No matter what you decide, even if you go back to her. Because you are my son, and that is never going to change. He cried again. I don't know if I love her, Mom. I don't know if I ever loved her, or if I just loved the idea of what I thought she was. That is the question you have to answer. The following 2 months were a whirlwind. Vanessa intensified her campaign. Daily calls, messages, ultrasound photos. Look at your son, Michael. Are you really going to abandon us? She hired a lawyer, threatened a lawsuit for abandonment of the home, for psychological violence. She invented stories about mistreatment, but then Mr. Higgins did his job. Mr. Michael, he told him one afternoon in my living room, I have investigated the legal situation. Your wife can sue for child support. Yes. But given that you did not abandon her, she kicked you out of the house when you discovered her lies, and that there is no proven violence, the judge will be reasonable. And the house is in both names, but you paid the down payment with a loan from your company. I have the documents. In a divorce, it would be divided equitably. Considering the credit card debts she hid, they would probably end up selling and splitting the little that remains. Michael nodded slowly. And the baby? Shared custody, most likely. You have the right to be a father, Mr. Michael. She cannot take that away from you. But then something happened that none of us expected. At the end of February, 2 weeks before the due date, I received a call. An unknown number. Mrs. Margaret? Yes. Who is speaking? I am Rebecca Sanchez. Vanessa's mom. My heart raced. Mrs. Rebecca, I need to talk to you in person. Can we meet? We met at a coffee shop near my house. I arrived 15 minutes early. I ordered a coffee I didn't drink. Rebecca Sanchez arrived on time, 57 years old. Gray hair pulled back in a ponytail, simple but clean clothes, rough working hands, tired but kind eyes. She sat in front of me, ordered a tea. Thank you for coming, she said softly. Tell me, Mrs. Rebecca, what do you need? She breathed deeply. I need to apologize for my daughter, for everything she did to you. I didn't expect that. I know Vanessa treated you badly, Michael told me. Well, Vanessa told me her version, but I know my daughter. I know when she lies. Her eyes filled with tears. I raised her alone after my husband fell into depression. I worked selling whatever I could to give her an education. But at some point she decided that it would never be enough, that she deserved more, that the world owed her something. It's not your fault, Mrs. Rebecca. Yes, it is, because I allowed it. When she started lying about our life, about our family, I stayed silent because I wanted her to be happy, because I wanted her to have the opportunities I never had. She wiped her tears. But I taught her that lying was okay. That pretending was more important than being honest. And now she is going to have a baby, and I am afraid she will teach him the same thing. I took her rough, hard-working hand, like mine. What can I do, Mrs. Rebecca? I don't know if I can ask you this, but could you give Vanessa a chance? Not for her, for my grandson. That baby isn't to blame for his mother's mistakes. Mrs. Rebecca, I would never deny Michael being a father, nor his grandson having his dad. But that doesn't depend on me. It depends on Michael and Vanessa. I know, but you have influence over your son. If you tell him not to go back, I would never say that. Michael is an adult. It is his decision. Rebecca nodded. Vanessa hates me for coming here. She told me that if I spoke to you, she wouldn't let me see my grandson, but I couldn't stay silent. I needed you to know that not all my family is like her, that some of us do have values. We sat in silence. Two mothers, two women who had struggled all their lives, who had made mistakes, who loved their children despite everything. Mrs. Rebecca, I said finally, when that baby is born, you are going to meet him. I promise you. No matter what happens between Michael and Vanessa, that boy is going to have his maternal grandmother in his life. She cried. Thank you. Thank you. We said goodbye with a hug. Two warriors recognizing each other. That night I told Michael about the meeting. Vanessa's mom came to see you? He said, surprised. Yes, she is a good woman, son. Hardworking, honest. Vanessa didn't learn her lies from her. Michael remained thoughtful. You know, I've been thinking about the baby, about being a dad, and I'm going to be there for my son always. But that doesn't mean I have to be with Vanessa. Have you decided? Yes. I'm going to ask for a divorce after the baby is born. I don't want to stress her during the pregnancy, but I can't continue in a relationship built on lies. I nodded. It is a difficult decision, son, but it is yours, and I respect it. Do you support me? With all my heart. 2 weeks later, on March 15th at 3 a.m., Vanessa's water broke. Michael received the call. He got dressed in 2 minutes. Mom, it's the baby. Go, son. I'll meet you at the hospital. I arrived at Mercy Hospital 2 hours later. Michael was in the waiting room, nervous, pacing from one side to the other. How is she? In labor. The doctors say everything is going well. At 9:43 a.m., my grandson Matthew was born. 7 pounds 11 ounces, dark hair, eyes closed. Perfect. When they let me enter the room, I saw Vanessa in the bed, exhausted, disheveled, holding the baby. Our eyes met. And in that moment all the hatred, all the war, all the poison evaporated. Because there in her arms was my grandson, blood of my blood, James's legacy, future of our family. Do you want to hold him? Vanessa asked softly. I took Matthew in my arms. He smelled new, like hope, like a second chance. "Hello, my love," I whispered. "I am your grandma, and I promise you that I am going to love you without conditions, without lies, without games," Vanessa cried. I don't know if from exhaustion, hormones, or something deeper. "Mrs. Margaret, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for everything." I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw a scared girl who had made terrible decisions trying to escape her past. "I know, Vanessa. I know." It wasn't forgiveness, not yet, but it was a start. The 3 months after Matthew's birth were the strangest of my life, like living in two simultaneous realities. In one reality, I was the loving grandma. I visited Matthew 3 times a week. I brought him clothes. I knitted myself. I held him while Vanessa showered or rested. I sang him the same lullabies I had sung to Michael. In the other reality, I was the mother-in-law who had destroyed a marriage. Vanessa treated me with cold courtesy. Michael slept in the guest room of his own house. Conversations about divorce were postponed until Vanessa recovered from the birth, but we all knew it was a matter of time. In June, 3 months after Matthew's birth, Michael finally did it. He arrived at my house one Saturday afternoon. He sat in the armchair where he had spent so many afternoons of his childhood. "Mom, today I spoke with Vanessa officially. I asked for a divorce." My heart squeezed. How did she take it? Better than I expected, I think. I think she was expecting it too. Living together without being together these months has been unbearable for both of us. And Matthew? Shared custody. She stays in the house during the week. I have him on weekends. When he is older, we will adjust. He breathed deeply. And Mom, there is something else. Tell me. Vanessa wants to sell the house. She says she can't pay the mortgage alone. That with the credit card debts, she is drowning. There it was. The inevitable consequence of years of living beyond her means. And what do you want to do? Honestly, selling would be best. Split what remains. Start over. He looked at me with those eyes that still melted my heart. But Mom, I don't know if I'll be able to. The value of the house dropped, with what we owe on the mortgage plus the card debts that are in my name too. We are going to walk away owing. How much? He took out some papers. He had studied them. He had numbers written in his small, neat handwriting. The house is worth $500,000. We owe $400,000 on the mortgage. The cards total $65,000. Vanessa kept spending after Christmas. He made mental calculations. If we sell, after paying everything, we have like $35,000 left to split. 17, $5 each. And with that, you have to start from scratch. Yes, rent an apartment for me and for when Matthew visits. Buy furniture, clothes, everything. He laughed bitterly. At 32 years old, starting over like when I was 20, I observed him. My son, my warrior, defeated but not broken. And I made a decision. Michael, there is something I need to tell you. What is it, Mom? I got up, went to my room, took a manila envelope out of my safe that I had prepared 2 weeks earlier. I went back to the living room, handed it to him. Open it. He did. Inside were documents. He read them. His eyes went wide. Mom, this is the deed to a condo. That's right. In the suburbs, near here. 2 bedrooms, 2 baths, updated kitchen, value $350,000. I bought it 6 years ago as an investment. And why are you showing me this? Because it's yours. Silence. What? I am giving it to you, son. So you have a place to live. So Matthew has a home when he is with you. So you can start over. Mom, no. I can't accept this. It's too much. It is not too much. It is fair. It is what I should have done years ago. Supported you without making you dependent. Gave you tools without taking away the hunger to grow. Michael looked at the document with tears in his eyes. But there are conditions, I continued. Conditions? Yes. First condition. The condo is yours, but if you ever sell it, 50% of the profit goes to an education fund for Matthew Blocked until he turns 18. He nodded. Agreed. Second condition. You pay me symbolic rent, $100 a month. Not because I need the money, but because I want you to value what you have. That you never forget that things have a cost. Understood? Third condition. Vanessa never, ever has access to that condo. It is Matthew's space and yours. A place to rebuild your life without the lies of the past. That is my favorite condition, he said with a sad smile. I hugged him. I love you, son. And I'm sorry I didn't tell you the truth sooner. I'm sorry my silence created the space for Vanessa to manipulate you. No, Mom. You are not to blame. I was the fool who believed the lies because I wanted to believe them. We stayed like that, hugging, healing. But I wasn't finished yet. Is there something else? I said, separating myself. More? I took out another envelope, this one thinner. This is for Vanessa. Michael frowned. For Vanessa? Open it. He did. Inside was a cashier's check for $65,000. Mom, what is this? It is a gift for Vanessa to pay her credit card debts. What? Mom? After everything she did to you? Listen to me, son. Listen to me well. I took his hands. Vanessa is the mother of my grandson. I don't have to love her. I don't have to be her friend. But I also cannot allow my grandson to grow up in poverty because his mother is drowning in debt. But I don't do it for her. I do it for Matthew. And I do it for you. Because as long as Vanessa is economically desperate, she is going to be a desperate mother, and that will affect your son. Michael shook his head, incredulous. You are too good, Mom. I am not good. I am practical. This is an investment in my grandson's mental health. I paused, but it also has conditions. Which ones? Vanessa has to use it only to pay debts. Mr. Higgins will verify that every dollar goes to the banks. If she buys clothes, shoes, anything that isn't paying debts, the deal is canceled and I recover the money. And the second condition, Vanessa agrees to go to psychological therapy for a year minimum, paid by me, so she works on her problems, her lies, her relationship with money. And if she refuses, then she keeps her debts. Simple. Michael looked at me with admiration. When did you think of all this? I've been thinking about it for 3 months, since Matthew was born. Since I understood that this was no longer about Vanessa and me, it was about that baby. The next day, Michael presented my proposal to Vanessa. She called me 2 hours later crying, Mrs. Margaret, I don't know what to say. Don't say anything. Just accept the conditions and work on being a better person for Matthew. Why are you doing this? After everything I did to you, because I am a mother before being a victim, and that baby deserves the best, including a mom who is okay. Vanessa went to therapy religiously every week, at first resisting, then opening up. In August, 6 months after Matthew's birth, they signed the divorce. It was amicable, sad, but necessary. Michael moved into his condo. He decorated it simply, comfortably. He prepared the second bedroom for Matthew with all his love, and every weekend my grandson arrived at that space. Sometimes I went to visit them. I cooked for Michael, played with Matthew. We were family again. Wounded, but healing. One Sunday in October, I received an unexpected visit. Vanessa knocked on my door with Matthew in her arms. She wore simple clothes, without excessive makeup. She looked real. Mrs. Margaret, can we talk? I invited her in, prepared coffee. We sat in my living room. I have been going to therapy, she began. As you asked. I know. Mr. Higgins keeps me informed. My therapist asked me to do something, to come talk to you, to apologize. Really, not because I want something in return, but because I need it to heal. I listened. I was horrible to you. I treated you like trash. I humiliated you because it made me feel powerful. Because all my life I felt less than everyone, and finally there was someone who could be beneath me. Tears ran down her face. But you were never beneath me. You built an empire. You raised a wonderful son. You survived things I can't even imagine. And I was just a spoiled brat playing queen. Vanessa, no. Let me finish, please. She breathed deeply. I have learned in therapy that all my lies came from fear. Fear of not being enough. Fear that they would reject me if they knew where I come from. But lies only created more fear, more pain. And now, what have you learned? That truth hurts less than lies. That being poor doesn't make me less valuable. That my mom, who sells necklaces at flea markets, is more dignified than any businessman I met. She looked at Matthew asleep in her arms. And that I want my son to grow up knowing the true story of his family, not made-up versions. I approached, touched her hand. Vanessa, I forgive you. She sobbed. Really. Really. But forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It means letting go of the poison. It means your mistake no longer has power over me. Thank you. She left an hour later. Lighter. Freer. And I also felt free. The following months were of reconstruction. Michael flourished in his new apartment. He got a promotion at work, started saving again. Vanessa continued with her therapy. She sold the leased BMW, bought a modest car, stopped pretending to be who she wasn't. And Matthew grew surrounded by love, by 2 homes, of truth. 1 year after the Christmas explosion, I convened a family meeting. Michael, Vanessa, Rebecca, Vanessa's mom, Mr. Higgins, and me. I gathered them because I need to communicate some decisions, I began. Everyone looked at me expectantly. I have updated my will. Silence. Michael, you will inherit one of my condos in the city, valued at $1.2 million, and an investment fund of $500,000. Michael blinked. Mom, wait. I haven't finished. I looked at Matthew playing with blocks on the floor. For Matthew, I have created a trust, $2 million, locked until he turns 25. For his education, his future, his dreams. Vanessa gasped. Mrs. Margaret, that is too much. It is not for you. It is for him. So he never has to lie about who he is. So he has real opportunities, not fantasies, I continued. The rest of my estate, approximately $4 million, will go to the Margaret Mendez Foundation for Widowed Entrepreneurs. Michael smiled. Mom, it's perfect. Women like me, like Rebecca, like so many who are left alone and have to build from scratch. We will give them microloans, training, support. I looked at Rebecca. In fact, Mrs. Rebecca, I would like you to be part of the board of directors. Rebecca cried. Me? You? Because you know what it is to struggle, and because your honesty is what this foundation needs. That afternoon we all signed documents. We sealed the future, and for the first time in years, I felt at peace. 6 months later, the Margaret Mendez Foundation opened its doors. Small office in the city, 3 employees. A pilot program with 20 women. The inauguration was simple. Coffee, donuts, brave women telling their stories. Michael was there with Matthew in his arms. Vanessa came too. Rebecca cut the ribbon, and I, Margaret, the widow, the seamstress, the woman who built an empire in silence, finally could shout my truth. That night, back in my house, I sat in my floral armchair, the same one where I had spent 40 years sowing dreams. I took out an old photo. James and I, young, hugging in front of our humble bungalow. We did it, my love, I whispered. Our son is a good man. Our grandson will have a future. And your widow never stopped fighting. I put away the photo. I turned off the light and slept in peace. 3 years later, Matthew is 4 years old. He is a brilliant, curious, loving boy. He spends weekends with Michael, weekdays he is with Vanessa, and every Tuesday and Thursday he comes to my house, day with Grandma. We bake cookies. I teach him to use my old singer machine. I tell him stories about his grandfather, James. Michael married again. A woman named Elena, an elementary school teacher. Simple, honest, kind. The wedding was small, beautiful, real. Vanessa also rebuilt her life. She has a boyfriend, a mechanic from Gary, who met her selling at the flea market with her mom. He loves her for who she is, not for who she pretends to be. The foundation has helped 200 women in 3 years. Some have opened businesses, others have paid debts, all have recovered dignity, and I am 71 years old. I keep sewing, not for money anymore. For love. Every stitch is a prayer. Every garment is a legacy. Yesterday, Matthew asked me, Grandma, why do you work so much if you're already rich? I knelt in front of him, touched his perfect little face. My love, I don't work for money. I work because every stitch reminds me who I am, where I come from, and where I am going. And where are you going, Grandma? I smiled. Toward a future where you, my beautiful boy, know that true value is not in what you possess. It is in what you build, in how you treat others, in the dignity you never allow them to take away. He hugged me. I love you, Grandma. And I love you, my sky. And I love you. If this story touched your heart, Leave me a comment telling me where you follow us from, what lesson you take away. Have you ever had to defend your dignity in front of your own family? Share your experience, hit like if you believe dignity has no price, and subscribe to keep listening to stories of women who rise, who fight, who never give up. Because in the end, true wealth is not in what you keep in the bank. It is in what you never allow them to take away. Your name, your truth, your dignity. May this story remind you that it is never too late to recover your voice, to set boundaries, to say enough. Until the next story. Take care of yourselves and never, never forget your worth.